We're here, we're queer, and we love the Lord. That's right, you're listening to Coming Out Christian, a podcast about life at the intersection of queer identity and Christian faith. This fun, faithful, and sometimes irreverent podcast is a production of LOVEboldly, an Ohio-based nonprofit creating spaces where LGBTQIA+ people can flourish in Christianity. I'm one of your hosts, Siobhan Boyd Nelson, and my co-host is the Reverend Dr. Ben Hillscamp, Executive Director of LOVEboldly. So join us, and let's find out who's coming out today. Hey there, Ben.
Hey, Siobhan, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you. Getting geared up for Thanksgiving, which is coming up in just a few days.
Oh, I know. So much to get ready for. I'm probably haven't been to the grocery store for the fifth time yet. So Thanksgiving is all about cooking for me and how many dishes I can fit onto my stove at one time and getting my timeline, my schedule of what needs to go in the oven and what has to go on this burner. Yeah, that's where my head is right now.
Yeah, I will probably be planning the drink for Thanksgiving dinner. My sister typically hosts nowadays, and somehow
Okay.
I always get volunteered to make like the boozy punch or the
Ooh.
whatever drink we're going to have as a group, which comes to a really high bar because we have people in the family who know their cocktails, know their alcohol very well. So
Okay.
there's always some judgment about, did I do enough? Did I put enough sugar in? Did I, whatever. But I will probably be planning out exactly what I need for that. Making the list of everything, getting it ready for that day.
Ben, I have learned something new about you. You are the family bartender. Who knew?
I'm one of them, definitely.
Okay. That's very fun, actually. I don't think I've ever been asked to make a cocktail at a family event. Usually, we're just grabbing a little gin from a grandfather on the side and just pass it to him quietly.
Remember, I went to the college which was always in the top 5 of the colleges with the most amount of hard liquor on campus.
Wow. Okay. But I think Howard had to be in that list too, though, Ben. I didn't have a beer until I went to law school. Like that's the HBCU of it all, is that we tend not to drink beer. There are no keggers. There's no keg and eggs. That's just not a thing. We're drinking blue juice and not PBR. So I actually had to learn to, I didn't have to, I chose to learn to drink beer when I was in law school because I was at OSU, definitely not an HBCU, and beer is the drink of choice in those spaces.
Yeah, and I was on lists of most hard liquor on campus. Usually, we're talking OSU-sized institutions, or at least
Right.
Howard-sized institutions, not Swanee with its 1,500 undergraduates.
And it's such a sweet sounding name too, Swanee. Who would ever think? Sweet little Swanee.
Well, it's a school for a lot of typically wealthy Episcopalians or wealthy Protestants in general. I mean, like WASP. I mean, we might as well just be the WASP. So it sort of makes sense when you think about it that way.
Okay, I love this. Look at me learning amazing things about you. Okay, I'm going to keep on this because now I want a recipe. I want to know what the Thanksgiving drink recipe is because I might want to try it. What kind of liquors do you usually use, or what liquor do you think you're using this year?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to see. I forget what I made last year, but it didn't go over well. It wasn't sweet enough for my family.
Okay.
So we'll see. One year I tried to recreate the drink I made during college, which was called the Bells of St. Benedict, and had multiple different types of alcohol in it. Kind of think Long Island iced tea in a Southern religious environment.
I have never thought of that, but I will now. Thank you. Long Island iced tea in a Southern religious environment. Well, on that note,
Yep.
y'all, I think we got to get into our guest and see if she has any thoughts. Has she ever thought about Long Island iced tea in a Southern religious environment? I'm guessing not. But that is not to say that our guest is not amazing and wonderful and that we aren't incredibly excited to get to speak with her today. Today we are talking to the Reverend Iva Joyce-Miesse. Reverend Iva is a lifelong Episcopalian who grew up in rural South Central Ohio. Prior to discerning a call to the ordained ministry, she practiced outpatient orthopedic and sports medicine physical therapy for almost 30 years. She earned her Master of Divinity from Virginia Theological Seminary in Alexandria, Virginia, in May of 2022. She migrated home to Ohio to accept her first call as the Associate Rector at Trinity Episcopal Church in May of 2024 after spending just over a year in Boulder, Colorado, home of Mork and Mindy, while her wife, also an Episcopal priest, served as her first call in an Episcopal parish nearby. Reverend Iva is the proud mama of two amazing adult children, Ryan and Gwyneth. She and her wife, Julia, are the devoted servants of their one-year-old cat, Sherman. When not engaged in the work of the church, Iva is an avid hiker. She also enjoys adventuring with Julia, cooking and eating, time around the kitchen table, and traveling near and far. And we also have to mention that Iva is a board member of LOVEboldly. Welcome, Iva. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here today.
Yay. All right. So we are going to dig in. And also, I added the thing about Mork and Mindy. I just want to throw that out there so that no one just assumes that you're a huge Mork and Mindy fan. That was all me.
Well, I had the suspenders when I was a kid.
Did you?
Yeah, it was actually on the, yes. And the Mork and Mindy house is truly about 2 blocks away from where Julia's church is.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a thing out there.
Just 6 steps of Kevin Bacon. Okay. So let's get to our first question, which is always, what is your testimony? What is your story at the intersection of queer identity and Christian faith?
Well, Siobhan, it's funny because for so many of us in the LGBTQ community, right, so much of our stories and that intersection often begins, unfortunately doesn't end, but starts often in a traumatic space, right?
Yeah.
And mine does not. You will often hear an Episcopalian, a lifelong Episcopalian, refer to themselves as cradle Episcopalians. And I'm not super fond of that term, but I definitely was raised in the arms of the Episcopal Church. And so my story has to go back a little bit further, almost to its very beginning, because I was was the child of a late in life widower. My dad was 55 when I was born. My mom was 40. And my dad had 3 teenagers that he had already raised and more or less gotten out of the house when he married my mom. And my mom she helped to finish raising her stepchildren. And I didn't come along for a while. So I was much waited for and anticipated. I always admired my dad for being willing. I am the age now that he was when he brought me home from the hospital.
Yeah.
And I always admired his willingness, right, to start that work and that task with a great deal of love over again. So I am my mom's only, and I was my dad's 4th. But fast forward a little bit, my dad retired when I was quite young. And we moved to his hometown. He had traveled with the airlines. He was an executive for United Airlines for over 40 years. And they moved him 23 times in those 40 years. So by the time my dad retired, even in the 3.5 years of my time before he retired, I was born in Chicago. which is my only excuse for being a Cubs fan. Moved to Long Island and moved back to Chicago. And that was all before I was 3. So my dad didn't want to travel anymore. He just wanted to go home. And so they bought this cool 1860s farmhouse on about 30 acres. It was my dad's love in his retirement to restore it in period. They poured a lot of love into that place. But coming home isn't always what we expect it to be. And into a small farming community, they struggle to, I think my dad anticipated really kind of reintegrating into that community, sort of where he left off when he'd left it the 50 or so years prior. Mm-hmm. And my mom was quite lonely. My mom was, she was always a city kid. She was the Episcopalian of the two of them. And so my mom really started seeking a place for belonging. And that was, for her, that was the Episcopal Church. There was one in the next town over. I grew up cradled in the arms of the Episcopal Church. And they were the ones who first taught me what it meant to live into their baptismal covenant. They raised me, and I had an awful lot of extra parents, right? And was raised in that loving place and taught an awful lot about my own faith and my own journey. And I received kind of my first calling in life, not kind of. I know retrospectively to name it that now. When I was 14 years old, and my dad had a great saying that he was happily married, and to remain so, he needed a hobby in his retirement.
I get it. Yep.
And so he was a woodworker. He was a self-taught woodworker. And one day when I was a freshman in high school, he put his hand into his table saw. A piece of equipment that he was using broke, and his hand went into the blade. They managed to reattach 3 of his fingers on his right hand.
Okay.
And I used to go to therapy with him, right? And that was kind of when I experienced this sense of call, right?
Okay.
I was never the child. I was never the late high schooler or early collegiate that sought this thing. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be? It sort of settled into my heart, right? In that space. And so I never really wavered. That was just what I did. And the great gift of being a physical therapist for as long as I was. And the thing that's unique about that as a vocation and as a call is that you're invited into journey with people.
Yes.
So much of medicine is interventional, right? It's a medication or a surgery or a procedure, and then it's done. And physical therapy is this walking beside. You see the ups, you see the downs, and you get to walk that journey with folks. And it's a great gift and a deep privilege, right? So, kind of, and I think what I need to provide a little bit as a backdrop, because the question is specifically the intersection of queer identity and my faith. And I need to say, I was raised in a geography, a culture, and a time frame that being queer was just wasn't okay.
Yeah.
Right. It was not affirmed within the Episcopal Church, and where I was growing up in this body of love. It was not talked about, not condemned, but not talked about at that point in time. And there's so many influences that so much of heteronormative culture that seeps into us, right?
Yes.
That we are kind of insidiously and sometimes even subconsciously absorbing.
Yeah.
Right? We're so steeped in it that we don't know that it's happened to us. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are familial expectations.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. I come from, my parents being that kind of removed by another half generation, right? That
Mm-hmm.
were very, I say beaver cleaver era,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was a child representing my presentation in the world, my manner of being in the world reflected on how well, especially my mom, parented, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the kind of the usual expectations of those were a backdrop and kind of background noise for
Mm-hmm.
me. And so I met those expectations, right? I met a wonderful, wonderful man right after I graduated from physical therapy school in 1995. We got married.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 beautiful children, and we spent almost 27 years. And I tell everyone that I have the opportunity to, I didn't wake up every single day of my life and say, "Oh, I'm miserable." Right? I didn't wake up and say there's this dissonance in my life that came later. And I'll get to that part in a minute. We built a life of loving each other and our children, and we had a really, really, really good time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was a gift. It was a gift to each other. We were gifts to each other. There's nothing about that I look back on and lament or regret. Not
Yeah.
one thing. Right?
Yeah.
My entire adult life, I remained devotedly Episcopalian. I
Mm-hmm.
did all the things in whatever. Both my kids were baptized in the Episcopal Church. I did all of the things in lay ministry that you could possibly do in the Episcopal Church. And the story of my call would be the entirety of a podcast, and I won't expound on that too much, except to say that ordained ministry was not something I'd ever seen on a horizon for me. I was very happily a physical therapist. I very much believed that I was living into a call, even in my first profession. And it was something that came upon me. I often say that my call was sort of like a 2x4 upside the head. It was not this, evolving of this little weird feeling I had inside of me. No, it was literally 1 24-hour period later. I realized this was supposed to be the direction I needed to take my life.
Yeah.
And this thing kind of started to happen to me over the course of my discernment to the priesthood, and then while I was in seminary. The Episcopal Church is open. It is affirming. It is not in name only that it is affirming. We do an increasingly better job of living that out every single day. And I realized over the course of some amount of time that there was this dissonance. This is something being queer was something I knew about myself. I didn't spend 27 years. I knew that about myself. Right?
Yeah.
This wasn't a new bit of knowledge for me, right? I wasn't trying to live a deceptive life. I was just doing the things that were expected of me, right?
Right.
So, but this, I started realizing that for me to stand at that altar and in this new life that I was hurtling towards, to open my arms and embrace you as you are, exactly as you are in this moment, whatever that means, I'd better start living into the integrity of that in my own heart.
Yeah.
Right? So although I never had this, like I said, I didn't spend almost 3 decades of my life being miserable. I realized that this was creating more in me as I hurtled towards my life as an ordained person. And I needed to rectify that. And I wasn't sure how that was going to look. And so I had hard conversations. With my husband at the time. He knew. And as this started to unfold in my life, with another kind of precipitating factor, he was my biggest advocate.
Wow.
He loved me enough that he wanted me to be complete.
Yeah.
He wanted me to have that rightness in my soul. Right? I often say, I lived my life 98.62% genuinely, right? And that affirmation and that ability to accept myself and accept myself as being loved through that process. When I would run out of words in telling my kids, he could finish their sentences for me and help me. And I admired him so much for that. Simultaneously, so there was this long process. There was this long work of what the dissonance meant and how I needed to resolve that for my heart. And then simultaneously, and I didn't realize it, my mom passed away. She died 10 days before I graduated from seminary.
Oh.
And there was a moment, and it wasn't just her expectations, but there was a moment sometime in the weeks and months after my mom died that I realized that all of those expectations had been lifted. Right. And it was, I think it was symbolic in my mom's death, because it wasn't just those expectations. Right.
Yeah.
But that moment where I sat up in bed, probably in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, and realized that was gone now. That wasn't. And so that was kind of the culminating point for me. It's that integrity piece. It's that rightness, not only with myself, but with what I profess, that I believe, that I was even passively denying about myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was important that I resolve. And then graduated from seminary and started realizing that friend that I had run the COVID surveillance program with, Julia was, before she went to seminary, was a trauma nurse.
Okay.
And so when COVID descended, Julie and I were the only two in our graduating class from VTS that had medical backgrounds. And so the dean called Julia and asked her to devise a surveillance program that would help us keep the seminary open and back in in-person classes as quickly as we could. She said, I can't manage this program on my own. I need help. And the only other medical person is Iva. So I got recruited into that work for the year and a half of my seminary time. And when we graduated, we started realizing that we were not just missing our friend from seminary. And so by God's grace, that was a gift. And Julie and I got married. It'll be 2 years, October the 14th. So
wonderful. Happy anniversary.
Yes. Oh, that's right. We're talking in the future tense about now the past tense. Yes, I will have had my second anniversary by then. So, that's kind of my story.
It is an absolutely beautiful story, Iva. Thank you so much for sharing it. So much, it even from the way that you tell the story, it is evident that you've learned a lot from it and that there was a lot of wisdom that you've garnered from that journey and that experience.
Mm-hmm. And it's not something that I am, it is just part of it's. I've had other people comment about how genuinely it comes across when I explain that kind of that need for the difference between living deceptively. It's not right. That isn't a thing. It wasn't for me. And it wasn't that it wasn't hard. It was super, super hard. But so important and so worth it to where I am now.
Yeah. So there's a few things in your story that I wanted to touch on. The first one is this idea of conforming and living up to folks' expectations, particularly those of us who come from faith or religious backgrounds, those of us who grew up in the church. And it just occurred to me because my mom did not accept me when I came out, and we actually had a fractured relationship for a number of years. And I think a lot of that was expectations, right? I'm her daughter. There are certain ways, and absolutely I was a reflection on her and the way that she raised me and, all the investment that she put into me. And I think, and I haven't confirmed this with her, but I suspect that a big part of her coming around is that I had actually met those expectations. That when she stopped and looked at the expectations that she had for my life, that I be a good student, have a good career, be helpful in my community, be a good mom, raise a good kid, they had all happened. And there was that fear that they wouldn't happen, which we get, the fear that, the stories they tell, all that fear, but it had happened. And I wish that we didn't have to either A, live up to those expectations, or B, live without them until the point that we meet those expectations in spite of our queerness. For our elders, I won't even just say our parents, I'm going to say elders. I'm going to say elders in the church, elders in the community, for being expansive, saying, no, there's more than one way to be successful and live a good life. How did
I think? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I think I was never. If there's one thing I regret,
okay,
when I say I have no regrets, I was never brave enough to tell my mom. And I wish I had. I wish I'd been brave enough. I don't know that I'm still not sure I wish I had.
Okay.
Told her.
Yes.
I wish
Yes.
I'd been brave enough. I wish
Yes.
I had the courage, in that I had to muster in the other areas of my life that I needed to face folks, including myself, right? And I think that is the I think that's where I see joy and hope coming through, is in the fact that what perceived expectations and real expectations. I think if I'd been able to get her to drill down to, well, the things that you mention, as far as, check boxes of, I've done these things, right? That would have provided clarity, but I didn't have the courage to get there.
And I don't know that I had the courage to get there. Honestly, the fact that my mom knows that I'm gay is not in any way because of my bravery or courage. And I often, when I'm talking to people about, loss of family, I say, no, that fear is well-founded, unfortunately. Like, I don't like to say that, but that fear is well-founded because there is actual loss that can happen. And so I think sometimes it's the courage to come out, but it's right up against that desire for continued relationship. Even if that isn't a complete relationship, that relationship that does exist, we desire that. We want to maintain that, and that's very natural.
Mm-hmm. And in so many places, the greatest majority of places, I have only been received with love and embrace. Even in the places that stood to have it at least perceived as injurious, I have only run into the arms of love all the way around.
That's beautiful. And one of those people is your ex-husband. And I mean, he truly sounds like a lovely person and like someone who truly loved you. Like when you were sharing that story, I said, oh no, he really loves you. Like you. Yes. And that is a gift in any life, no matter who he is in your life, or, that is a gift to have one person like that in your life who really sees you, and loves you. How has his reaction informed you in the way that you move through life now?
I aspire to love that way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that it didn't, this is not the way he wanted this story to go.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have other things coming between us. And so, I respect so much his understanding of that kind of love. Mm-hmm. It is something that we fall short on, that reflecting that kind of love, Christ's love, in others' lives. And did so selflessly.
Yeah. So we've talked to a number of ministers, a number of folks who have gone to seminary. I think you're our first guest who really, I think people have come out during seminary or kind of been in this discernment during seminary. What is it about seminary that leads one to this type of discernment? What was it about your seminary or your experience in seminary that led down this path?
I don't know that I've ever thought about that question that way. It very much had to do with this sense of this need to have to not be out of sync, right, with what I was proclaiming and professing, from as the celebrant at the altar in the Eucharist to what I'm preaching about in the pulpit. So there was that, but I heard someone recently say, we were collectively, it was a colleague group talking about going to seminary, and that you spend more time in seminary sort of deconstructing a lot. You know that your life is called to this direction, and you understand that part, but there's so much unlearning of whether it's scriptural, whether it's church history, whether it's, bombs get dropped and you have this moment of thinking, right, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was part of the trajectory of the church. In the places that it was, that it has been weaponized and it has done damage, right? And so I think part of it, maybe I'm winding my way to my own answer to the question I hadn't thought of in that way, right, is that you also find yourself seeking a way to not perpetuate that.
Okay.
Right? You are, and I almost said in that phrase, I almost said, the sense that you can't continue being complicit to ways that we weaponize religion and church, and right. And, with the company tagline, if you will, of acceptance and affirmation and inclusion that is the Episcopal Church. And I will say, we kind of keep putting ourselves out there and on that leading edge, right, of that affirmation. I think some of it is the sense that I to fully live into this call on my life, I needed to make sure that I wasn't a part of that complicity. I need to make sure that the things that I do in my priesthood, right, are living the direction of love. The former presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, Michael Curry, said, if it's not about love, it's not about God.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. Okay.
I can't claim that one, but if it's not about love, it's not about God. And so I think that, that's kind of another facet is I can't change the whole church. I can't undo the history of the church. I can make sure that in the scope and swath that God puts before me in my vocation and my work, that's the trajectory that I'm on.
That's beautiful. And I have had a similar feeling that led me to come out. They didn't have anything to do with seminary, but it was becoming a mother. But I think it was that kind of idea of going into this vocation and needing to have a certain amount of integrity as I was going to raise another person and look them in the eye and say, this is the way you should live your life, and you should be honest, and you should be yourself and be authentic. And I realized I wasn't going to be able to have those conversations with my child with a straight face if I wasn't loving my whole self, if I were still hiding that and things like that. So I definitely understand that kind of, that being pushed by that vocation almost to really dig deep and unseed and deconstruct some things in your own life. It's beautiful.
Well, and authenticity, right, is such a And it was a word I was searching for somewhere in a previous question, and I just couldn't quite get there. But how that feels on the inside,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How and I would never have named myself as a person lacking joy, or a person lacking enthusiasm, or a person lacking, and yet after I came out, right, there was something that just felt more right in me, right?
Yes.
Just
Yes.
that feeling of being known,
Mm-hmm.
being loved for who I was,
Mm-hmm.
and that I was authentic to myself and in my world.
Yeah.
Game
It's
changer.
just a whole nother level. It's like you were there,
Yeah.
you thought you were at the top, and oh my gosh, it's a whole other level.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
So you've been back here in Ohio for how many years now? Just 2?
Yes, Julie and I moved back in May of 2024.
Okay. So just over a year
When
then.
when I accepted my call at Trinity. Being a 2 clergy family is
Yeah. What's
hard.
that like? Okay.
Well, well, there's some funny things about it. Like, this may be TMI, but pillow talk is very strange in our house. What do you think you're
Oh,
preaching on Sunday? Right?
yeah.
What do you think about? But it poses, it is challenging, because we have to have a hard stop. People in ministry talk about boundaries, and they talk
Mm-hmm.
about, and we actually have to have boundaries within our relationship and pause. In the Episcopal Church, we do believe, and I'm recollecting Ben's column from several weeks, maybe months ago now, when we were talking about ontological change at our ordinations. And so it becomes this, it's not something that I do as my day job, right?
Yeah.
It becomes enmeshed in my being, right? My
Yes.
beingness, and in hers. And so we have to have a hard stop on those things and remember, right, that we are married, and that is my primary role
Yeah.
in my marriage, is to being married to her and not my priesthood. And we both have to give each other some check reins sometimes, and reel each other in on that.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I've often joked about being in a 2-attorney marriage because my wife is an attorney. I was originally an attorney. And so when people ask me why I don't practice law anymore, I say, oh, you only need 1 attorney per marriage. That is plenty.
Well, and so, the other big challenge is, especially in our denomination, Episcopal churches are not a dime a dozen.
Okay.
And so geographic opportunities for clergy calls, they have to be within driving distance. They have to be. So Julie and I each maintain our licensures as nurse and physical therapist, respectively. And when we moved back, she went back to work in the emergency room for about 6 months before. She's the rector now at St. Luke's in Granville.
Okay.
I started there in February. So it has a lot of challenges. And the days in Colorado when she would get up and put on her collar, and when you know this to be the depth of this call in your heart, right, and you are not functioning as a priest, those were hard days.
Yeah.
And then we flipped that for the first 6 months we were back in Ohio. And I was very self-conscious those days that I put my collar on and realized she was putting on her scrubs, and that's not where she belonged.
Right.
So it also requires a lot of selflessness, right?
Absolutely.
To recognize what, and understanding a sense of call on your life means.
Yeah.
And the give and take that requires.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it probably keeps many of us away from ministry for longer than it should. Just recognizing the amount of give and take, and the fact that ministry is actually enmeshed in a person. It is not like other vocations that you can take off at 5 p.m. and put back on at 8 a.m. Yeah.
But in a different sense, it's also, we can give each other a grace that we can give each other a grace because we understand.
Yeah.
That right. If I were, married to an accountant or to an attorney or there's something lost in the language that you just can't always, it's not that the vocation itself is that important. I mean, the world is not going to, end without, but understanding what that feels like in your heart helps you understand each other too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And wouldn't it be great if we lived in a world where we just gave each other a little bit more understanding in our hearts and a little bit more grace? Because that's what it sounds like. There's just, we give our life partners an enormous amount of grace, as we should. But we tend to not have a lot left over for other folks if we're not ministers like you and Ben, where your job is literally to have something left over for the rest of us. So thank you for that.
Well, and that's hard in these times. Right?
Oh yeah.
We were away at a conference at the end of last week. We were together. We were not really there to be functioning in the roles of as a chaplain. And both of us really sensed, and it was completely off topic to, we'll just call them current events. It was not on any of those really divisive and polarizing things. It was a very neutral topic. But we both sensed this very heightened, it was almost a hum of energy. It was very strange. And it's the world's response, right, to our current circumstances, that everyone is kind of up here a little bit. I guess my hand gestures are probably not going to come through on the podcast. There's a heightened sense of energy that is really disconcerting. And we found ourselves really falling into a chaplain's role. Even though we were participants in this conference, we really kind of found ourselves needing to receive this energy and to kind of hold this energy. And it's a hard place to sit, because we're also just people. We're living through the same circumstances that are creating all of your heightened energy and angst, right?
Right.
And so, yes, continuing to have enough left it's a tall order right now, but it's good work, and it's such a privilege. I do not wake up any morning of my life and think, oh my gosh, I have to go do this again. Right?
Yeah.
At all. Not an inkling. So.
That is absolutely beautiful, Iva. Ben, did you have anything that you wanted to ask?
No, I'm good.
Okay. It's been a beautiful story, though. I mean, you have honestly, it's a very personal story, but a story with so much meaning. A lot of, hard decisions, discernment, relationships, navigating those relationships, and the fact that you can say, I wake up with joy in my heart in the morning today. I think that is the testimony, right? That is the testimony of the good news, that you still wake up every day with joy in your heart.
Amen.
Amen. All right, y'all. Wow, what a conversation. I was looking forward to this, Iva. Thank you so much. It has been absolutely wonderful. But now we're going to get into our final two segments of the episode. The first one is our query of the day. And I was thinking about starting our conversation, our episode, with this question, But then Ben got into being a bartender, and I had to know more about that. So this question is going to go back to Iva's physical therapy background and the fact that I'm living with someone who's been seeing 2 different physical therapists for 2 different things. And the question is, what's the dumbest thing you've done that made you need physical therapy, right? I think, Iva, you were joking earlier and said, yeah, I sneezed and now I'm in physical therapy. But for those of us who are over a certain age, all right, now, if you are in your 40s, if you are 45, if you are 50, this is going to sound like a random Tuesday to you, right? Because this is what happens as we age. It's distressing. It's disturbing. No one tells you about it. That's why I'm here to share it with you. But the question of the day, the query of the day is literally, what's the dumbest thing you've done and needed physical therapy or injured yourself doing, even if you didn't actually need physical therapy? Go ahead, Iva.
Are there age qualifications to?
Oh, no, not at all.
Because a lot of the things that I did are the reasons why I need therapy now.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, what did you do that means you need therapy now?
Well, there may have been an incident somewhere along the line in undergrad that I used a cafeteria tray to go down a very steep hill while we were sledding. And I've paid the consequences of that. But yeah, there are all the things that come, and you're gracious when you say, after the age of, because I'm another decade past that. And yeah, it is, I sneezed or I woke up and got out of bed wrong. Right. But
that is exactly. Yes. If you're over a certain age, waking up and getting out of bed is an Olympic sport. You heard it here first.
And the things that you do that 30 years ago, you'd be like, oh, well, that smarted a little. Well, that lasts for 6 months now.
Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Ben, can you think of anything that you've done?
So first off, I'll say that depending on one's definition of what exactly constitutes physical therapy, I have never been to a physical therapist.
Okay. Fair.
And your question, though, as our listeners will know, I normally tell Siobhan that as old as she makes herself seem to be, she's really not. But you did just say over 40. I'm 38.
That's true. This probably hasn't started for you then, Ben.
No, it really
He's
hasn't.
not even in the qualifying ranks for the question yet.
That's true.
although I will say I'm definitely starting to feel it already. I may not be at sneezing, needing physical therapy, but I'm definitely already at, eat anything after 8 p.m. and wake up feeling like I have a hangover the next morning, which is totally not what it was, 20 years ago. But no, I've been very blessed that I've not needed physical therapy to this point, barring some kind of athletic training type of therapy when I was in college and doing shot put and hammer throw for the track team.
Oh yeah.
But other than that,
that's gonna haunt you, Ben. I think shot put and hammer throw are gonna haunt you soon.
It's already haunting me. My back already. It's only going to get worse from here. But again, I have been very blessed that I've not needed physical therapy yet. Advil has been the extent of it, but that's definitely going to change very quickly.
Yeah, one day Advil's not enough.
Don't believe the nasty rumors you hear about physical therapists. We're not all mean.
You're not. My wife absolutely loves their physical therapists. Has 2 physical therapists, 2 very different personalities, likes them both. But now I haven't been to physical therapy. I also live with a chronic condition, which makes me just a little bit creaky. It makes me creakier than my years. So sometimes when I'm saying I'm old, it's because of how my body feels. But I will say that I have felt like I sprained a wrist or put something out of joint. I mean, getting out of bed, taking a shower, drying off my body, like, the very small, the little things when you need to train just to be able to take a shower and get dressed in the morning,
It's a real thing.
Rough out here. It is. It's a real thing. So listeners, chime in, tell us, what is it that is sending you to physical therapy? What's giving you the aches in your body as you age? What wild or not so wild things did you do in undergrad that are one day going to have you in the physical therapist's office, or, shooting back the Advil for that old undergrad injury? Oh, man, I never thought I would say old and undergrad at the same time. That's wild. All right, so you know what to do. Jump on the Instagram, answer the query of the day. Don't forget to like and follow and share while you are there. And now it is time for our moment in queer Christian history. This is when Ben reminds us that not only have we always been here, we've always been here in the church. Ben, what you got?
So, in honor of our guest, I want to share about one of the people from the history of the Episcopal Church who had quite a bit to do with particularly opening that denomination, that church up to the queer community, who also has one of what I think is the best names ever, and that's Dr. Louis Crew. Crew was a major mover and shaker in the queer community, particularly in the Episcopal Church. He was a professor, a poet, a writer, definitely an activist. In 1974, he founded Integrity USA, which until 2022 was the Episcopal Church's LGBTQIA plus affinity group, affinity space. He also worked with the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force, was on their board, founded the LGBTQ caucus of the National Council of Teachers of English, just actually a year after he founded Integrity USA. And it was just very well known, particularly in Episcopal circles, but definitely in Protestant and just Christian circles in general, as a major activist, major advocate for the queer community in Christianity very broadly. Crew actually married his husband in 1974 in a wedding that obviously was not legally sanctioned. They then, in 2013, were able to get married in a quote unquote legal ceremony. Crew passed away in 2019.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you for sharing with us, Ben, a pioneer of the Episcopalian faith. Amazing. Iva, it has been, great. Yay. It's wonderful spending time with you today. If folks want to know more about you, about the Episcopalian Church, where should they go? What should they look for?
Well, you can certainly look at the Episcopal Church. I don't know the web's address. I can get that for you.
We'll put it in the notes.
If you just Google the Episcopal Church, you're going to get our national website. You can learn an awful lot about all things Episcopal there, and kind of other things that we believe, and lots about the creeds and Eucharist and all sorts of things. You can also find me on the Trinity Episcopal Church's website. It's trinitycolumbus.org, and you can find some things there as well.
Wonderful. Amazing. Well, y'all, it has been another amazing episode. Thank you again to our wonderful guest, Iva. We're going to remind you, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, like, comment, share. Let us know what you're thinking on Instagram, or if there's anybody that you think should be a guest, and join us the next time we are Coming Out Christian.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope this conversation encouraged you, challenged you, and maybe just helped you feel a little less alone on your journey. If this podcast has been meaningful to you, would you consider supporting the work of LOVEboldly? LOVEboldly's mission is to create spaces where LGBTQIA+ people can flourish in Christianity, and your donation helps make conversations like this one possible. You can give at www.loveboldly.net/donate. That's www.loveboldly.net/donate. Want to stay connected with the podcast? Follow us on Instagram at comingoutchristian_podcast for updates, resources, and community. Until next time, remember that you can be queer and Christian and queer.